All right, y'all. Coming up on the main stage is Don Burke, Senior Vice President with Management Science Associates, leading edge information management and statistical analysis and business intelligence firm. Please give it up for Don.
Hello. Hey, everybody. So good to be here today. Looking forward to this. I have 20 minutes to present to you a lot of data. So we're going to have fun with it, but we're going to have to do it fast. So here we go. Let me get the things moving. So here's why I'm talking to you. USA CBD Expo asked me to come here and present to you because I tracked traditional classes of trade, particularly convenience, tobacco outlets, drugstores, mass merchandisers, that type of thing. And here's how that can be important to you. As you begin to grow and expand your business, you want to get into the conventional outlets, right? Here's what's selling at those outlets. So think about this as you work toward developing that kind of an effort. And here's the products, the people that you will want to be able to appeal to with the items you'll bring through those classes of trade. So that's what we're talking about. Let's go first to what we track. Always the first is Google search trends. We do that because we find that when you look at this, it indicates the amount of consumer interest in your products. So we start with that. The green line represents vapor, and you can see that's always been a very strong search. The purple line represents CBD. The reddish line represents THC, and the orangey yellow line represents hemp. You can see there's not a lot of search on hemp. Consumers don't necessarily understand that or realize that the CBD they use comes from hemp. Not a big search. But CBD is picking up. I'll show you the story as to what happened during the pandemic with CBD products, but you can see up here that it really dropped in terms of search. Consumers were not that interested with all the stresses of the pandemic in CBD. But look at that purple line here at the end. It is shooting up. That's great. That's a great sign. It means likely business is coming back in CBD. And it's a really good way to get started with this presentation. So then let's go into usage trends. First of all, I said I'd tell you, who is the typical CBD user? And here's what we found out. Survey of over 90,000 people across the US. They're typically males 18 to 49, females 18 to 34. They typically are blue collared, and typically that means people who work in like plumbing, electrician, landscapers, that type of thing. They're also really involved in restaurant and food service. Really weird that it triggered that kind of a call out, but I will tell you it's true because one, they're moving all the time, and two, they're dealing with a lot of people. So there's both anxiety and pain relief needed with that job, right? So restaurant, food service owners, business owners were important. Their income is typically under $50,000. They're single, they're renters, they're typically politically liberal. That's the kind of people that is typically interested in CBD. Now, this data is now a few months old. Most recently, we've been tracking, and we're finding out something very different. There's actually a U-shaped curve to the person who is likely to be the CBD user. It's definitely those at the younger ages, but also those 60 plus with higher incomes. And as I go through these slides, which I've got to go through fast, you'll see that. So keep that in mind as well. Most recently, 60 plus is becoming equally as important to the CBD retailer as this younger group. Okay, here's an important point. I mentioned it in a panel discussion yesterday, but this is worth repeating. The dark blue line represents the total percentage of people that responded this way. The light blue colored bar represents those that use CBD. So here's what this says. In terms of using cigarettes, 20% of the people in the survey use cigarettes. But of those people who use CBD, 36% of them use cigarettes. For vape, 8% of the people in the survey said they vape. 23% of those that use CBD said they vape. And go down the line. In every point, you will find that it's far more likely for the tobacco user, to be a consumer of CBD. That's important to you. It's important because you want to know what product forms is that tobacco consumer used to consuming, because that gives you an idea of the kind of products that you want to market to this audience. This is an important audience. It's also the reason that convenience, is very important to your business because the convenience channel, 70% of all tobacco sales goes through the convenience channel. This is where that customer is, and that's why convenience stores can be very important to your business as well. So a point worth making. Now, in this survey, 22% of people said they've tried it, 10% said they currently use it, 8% say they purchase it for a pet. Here's what's important about that. If you look at the CDC, about 14% of the people in the US use tobacco. 10% ain't bad, because that tobacco is a $100 billion business. So this is really, now, they purchase tobacco far more often. However, this is an important factor to remember. That's a great figure. Here's the people that use it by state legality. Here's what I wanted to show you. Our assumption was that in states where cannabis is fully legal, that consumers would have a greater and better understanding of CBD and use it more often. Not the case, guys. Fully legal, 12% of consumers in fully legal areas where cannabis is fully legal use CBD. Where it's medically legal, 10%. Where it's illegal, 11%. Pretty similar results. So if you think because your state is going to legalize cannabis, it's going to mean something to your business, likely not. It's the education you do now that will count toward your consumer base. Okay. This is the purchase frequency. What this is showing, 18% purchase once a week, 15% once every 2 weeks, 29% once a month. So about 61% of CBD users purchase once a month. That is not as often as the tobacco category, but it's not bad. Keep that in mind for your business as well. Here's what they spend. About 42% of consumers said they spend up to $30 per month. 30% said between $30 and about $100. 18% between 100 and 300, and 10% 300 or more a month. I find that final figure pretty hard to believe, but I think the first couple of figures are pretty accurate. Typically what you want to do is be certain you're offering enough lower priced items that you can appeal to this 42% that are only spending that amount per month. Okay, what sells? Number one is, now, this was done at the end of 2020. Number one, edibles, 2 topicals, 3 tinctures, 4 drinks. This is changed a little bit. I'm going to show you in a minute, but this is typically the way it goes within this category. Okay, this I think is one of the most important slides I will show you today. Here's what it says. We asked consumers, where do you buy your CBD item, right? 49% responded they buy it from a natural specialty retailer. That's a CBD shop, that's a health food store, that type of thing. Look at the next one, direct from manufacturer. That means they buy it online. The next one, smoke or vape shop, then other internet. Convenience stores are number 5, and then Amazon is number 6. Now what's important about this is this. If you look at it, number 1, brick and mortar. Number 3, brick and mortar. Number 5, brick and mortar. But 2, 4, 6, all online. It's showing you there's about an equal chance of them buying it in a brick and mortar store as buying it online. We did some survey information and found out that about 30% of consumers purchase their product online. I think that's a little low. It's very difficult to track online. I'll show you in a minute what that is. But I would bet, and I'm guessing, that it's about equal spending online to brick and mortar purchases. And part of that is due to what happened during the pandemic. And that could get back more to brick and mortar, but it's an interesting sort of change in consumer habits in terms of how they're buying their CBD items. Okay, I'm now going to take you through some volumetric data. This is from distributors that ship into all the different classes of trade across the US. And this is going to show you what we're seeing in the brick and mortar stores. This is volumetric data. Okay, first of all, I'm tracking the reporting distributors. Why am I doing that? Because if a distributor is carrying a CBD item, it's good for business. If there isn't much business there, they're not going to carry it. And if you look in the middle of the chart here around June of 2020, 92%, 94% of distributor sites were carrying CBD items. Look where it dropped during in the pandemic, into the 70s, right? Distributors were dropping it. Not a good sign. That's a definite sign. Business was down during the pandemic. The most recent figure, though, for September, up to 76%. That's looking good, right? Let me show you some more on this. We also track manufacturer growth. Number of manufacturers those distributors carry. That's a sign of the strength of the CBD business. And you can see in the middle of 20, it was around 83, 84. Look what it hit in September here, 89. The highest level of manufacturers carried by distributors. Also a good sign for you and your business. It means growing interest. They're not going to do this unless there's growing interest in the CBD category. Now this is really interesting, and here's the reason I show this. We tracked the 9 top manufacturers from January of 2019 through September of 21. Look at how this changes. What does this say? One, it's the wild, wild west that your business can grow, it can decline, it can do it fast. If you were like this orange manufacturer or the gray manufacturer here in January of 2019, you probably thought it was pretty sweet. Look at where they are now. Very, very small. The gray bar up there, the gray segment represents all other manufacturers. What it says to you, if you're a smaller manufacturer, there's a chance. Because look at how the smaller manufacturers are growing. And right now in September, it's the smaller manufacturers that have the great share of the CBD market. That's important for you to know, and then also a sign of great opportunity. Okay, we track number of unique items. Why do we do this? It shows innovation. Innovation in the category. You can see it was declining during the pandemic, but look most recently again, heading up. Also a good sign for this category. Now this is important as well. This is dollars versus units. And I'm going through this fast, but hang with me. So in the beginning, in January of 2019, do you see how the blue line is higher than the orange line? That means dollars were greater than units. It meant consumers were likely spending more on their CBD item. Just before 2020, you can see where those lines cross. And during the pandemic, look at like April, May of 2020, look how far higher the unit line is than the dollar line. That means that during the pandemic, consumers chose to purchase a less expensive CBD item than they were previously. What that says for your business, you need to be offering competitively priced, lower priced items that are going to bring these consumers and keep these consumers in the CBD category. And you can see that that trend continues all the way through here September, where, although it's starting to meet, where units are outselling dollars. That's what that means for your business. Okay, here's dollars per store. This is showing what's been happening in the traditional class of trade and what they're selling. This is dollars per store, and you can see it declined during the pandemic. Look how we're starting to pick up in August and September. I'll show you more about that in a minute, another figure, because this one can be influenced by new stores, that type of thing. But an important thing to keep in mind, this business is growing. Okay, what happened during the pandemic? I'm gonna show you exactly what happened during the pandemic to all the CBD items. Here we go. The blue line represents 2019. The orange line represents 2020. The light gray line represents 2019. So what you see in terms of CBD average weekly dollars is that 2021, we haven't nowhere hit even what it was in 20 or what it was in 2019. So CBD is still down. Now, you do see that most recent point going up. That's a good sign. I'll show you more about that here in a minute. Now let's look at the specific categories. First one we're going to look at is vape. I mentioned yesterday during the panel discussion, in 2019, there was that illegal THC vaping crisis. It blasted the business in CBD. Consumers stopped buying CBD items when they heard about that illegal THC vaping crisis. You know, people were in the hospital, some people died. It was horrible. But it turned people off to trying a new product. CBD business suffered tremendously because of that event. And you can see in 2019, near the end of it, how it dropped precipitously. Did not pick up the orange line in 2020, stayed very low. But in 2019, 2021, about a year and a half later, the vape business is picking up, and I will tell you, that's the #1 item right now in the CBD category, and you can see it growing. Let's look at some other product lines. Here's gummies. Gummies are always #1 seller in convenience. I'll show you that in a minute as well. But here's what happened to gummies. And you can see 2019 very strong, 2020 not so great during the pandemic, but 2021 we have not even hit back to that level. That's what's happening with gummies. Here's topicals, which are the lotions that you would put on your body. At the beginning of the pandemic, they were actually very strong. When that CBD vaping crisis hit, consumers who were ingesting something or inhaling something, they went to topicals to get their CBD. They thought it was safer. And you can see in 2020 how in April and May that picked up. You can see then in 2021, the gray bar, still not getting it. So we lost business as we went through 2020. The topicals themselves have never picked up in 21, so this business has not come back yet. If I look at tinctures, same story. 2021, they have not come back to the old level. Now, keep in mind, as I'm showing you this and the good news about CBD, I think they will, but not yet. Okay, here's CBD beverages. Beverages have a great deal of opportunity. We're tracking beverages across energy drinks, all the different categories. We're getting many more manufacturers in that again is a sign that this is picking up and there's business. But to date, still the business is below, at least in the past couple of months, below the 2019 and 20 levels. Okay, moist snuff. This is an item. Remember I said to you, tobacco users look at what tobacco users, the product forms they use, and offer that in CBD. So this is a product, if you're familiar with it, called Canadips, is mostly this. Look at how they were starting out 2021. One of the few lines that you see that are outperforming both the past 2 years. One of the few. So keep that in mind as you look at your own product line. Okay, pills. Pills are really strong during the pandemic. Look at that orange jump in the middle there. When the pandemic started, people went to CBD for wellness. They thought it would help them fight this virus that they were so worried about. And you can see that, and they also got a stimulus check. So you see the economy got worse, right? There was a lot of food workers that were buying these products. They were laid off, and you can see it dropped precipitously in 2020. Never really picked back up in 21. Most recently, we see an uptick. Let's hope that continues. Okay, hemp smokes, another big item here at this show. Look what happened. We saw very strong in 2019, almost nothing in the beginning of the year, finished the year pretty strong. 20, not bad. People were able to smoke at home during the pandemic when they were at home, so they used more of the items to smoke. Cigarettes, the same. But in 21, we have not seen it come back yet. So we're waiting for that. I would bet you it picks up, but not quite yet. Okay, here are the forms by the past 3 years. This is a summary chart. I want you to notice vape. In 2021, year to date, the strongest CBD item is in vape. Number 2 is gummies. Gummies came back from 20, so it dropped in 20. Look what happened to vape in 2020. Almost non-existent because of that vaping crisis. Came back strong in 21. Gummies strong in 21. Topicals are not as strong. So consumers now are that they're more comfortable ingesting their products again, are moving away from the items they put on their body, rub into their body. They're going back to the ingestibles, the consumables. So look at topicals have dropped quite considerably. Tinctures are down. Beverages heading up, and you can see how the rest of the categories go. Pretty interesting what the pandemic did to the types of product forms that consumers were buying. Okay, where is CBD the strongest? Let me just give you a picture of this. Look at those states. The dark colored states, the red color, those are the states that have the strongest CBD business. You look at Texas. Texas has 20% of the US CBD business in the traditional classes of trade, okay? Here's where CBD is growing the strongest, in the green states. So in the green states right now, these are the states that are showing the greatest growth in their level of CBD. And look, Texas again comes on the chart, a really important state for this business. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something by class of trade. I just want to show you little differences, so think about this, where you distribute your products. I show you all stores on the left, convenience stores next, tobacco outlets, and then all other classes of trade. What sells the best in tobacco outlets is what? By far, and no surprise, vape. And all other classes of trade, so this is drug, mass merchandise, or dollar stores, vape sells the best. But what sells in convenience? Not vape, but gummies. Gummies are strongest in convenience. Keep that in mind. Depending on the class of trade and the shopper in that kind of retail outlet, that will determine the product form that will sell the best. And you can see how it goes down here for the rest of the products. You can, if there's any questions after this, you can ask me afterwards. I know I'm going through this really fast. I want to make sure we get through it all. Okay, let's look at, now, this is the best slide, one of the best slides I can show you as well. This is a same store analysis, simple line, but what is the saying? When we looked at stores that carried CBD first quarter of 2020 and followed those stores all the way through the most recent quarter in 2021, what was their business? Well, just as we've been saying, it went down as the pandemic hit, down, down, down. But first quarter this year, there was a turnaround. And this is the best news I can show you, and this shows you the strength in this category. Consumers are coming back to this category. And you can see how that line starts to go up. So these stores were selling CBD during this whole period, and this was their business. And you can see it's heading up. That's, I think, a great sign for this industry. Okay, I have a couple more slides. I'm going to show you some interesting slides on what happens in brick and mortar versus online. This is panel data that we're tracking here. First of all, let's look at spending by household income in brick and mortar, so retail outlets, versus online. We call it non-brick and mortar because it includes a mail order, which is very small, but it includes mail order. So the gray bars represent brick and mortar. The yellow bars represent non-brick and mortar or online sales. So under 25,000, consumers are far stronger going into a retail outlet. When you get to 22 to 50,000, which we said was a prime target for this category, you can see that online picks up quite a bit, right? But brick and mortar is still very strong. And you can see how it goes through the other income levels. Interesting that I mentioned to you how we're starting to pick up at the higher income levels. So look at above 70,000, look at above 100,000. These consumers are starting to buy CBD. Great sign for the industry as well, that consumers with higher income levels are coming into this category and are becoming now a prime target. Okay, this is sort of interesting. Here's what this says. In households with no kids, almost 70% of the consumers go into a store, but 31% shop non-brick and mortar, shop online. But if they have kids and they've got to run in and get diapers or milk or whatever they have to get, they'll buy their CBD in those retail outlets. It's also a reason that convenience can be such an important class of trade for your business. These consumers are running in there to get the staples they need for their family, and they're likely to buy CBD while they're in those stores. So keep that in mind. Very different when you look at whether there's kids or not kids in the household. Okay, let's look at spending for the past 4 years, 2021 being in gold, by age group. So in the 20s, here's how to read this. What this is saying, this is all online, non-brick and mortar, all online sales. 35% of consumers who buy CBD in the 20s buy it online, 65% in stores. You get in the 30s and 40s, not as strong online. Why? Because again, these are the households with kids, right? That's the reason they're not buying as much online. Look what happens when you get into 50s as well, not as strong. Look at 60 plus. And this is the reason I'm telling you that the older segment is getting far more important to your business than what we had seen just months before. So look at 60 plus, and you can see that 36% of all consumers in that age group are buying their product online. Now, still the majority are going into brick and mortar stores, but that is quite a percentage and pretty high. And so it just gives you an idea of who your target is if you're selling online versus brick and mortar. And that's it. I'm getting the signal. That's it, okay? So I did that fast. Do we have time for any questions? One question, if there is one. If there isn't, they'll love you. They're giving me the signal. Okay, well, if you have any questions, I'll be around for a little bit. You're welcome to ask me. Thank you very much.